I don't wanna be the boy that runs in the back. I don't wanna be the kid that falls in the dark. All I really want to be is the guy that gets that girl.
Welcome to the AJ Steele Show. We discuss politics, sex, money, and everything in between. And now, here's your host, an immigrant, a self-made millionaire, an American, AJ Steele.
Everything I say and do, I'm just not good enough for you.
Great hello to all our listeners in the U.S. and the world. I'm so glad to announce that our show has entered the top 100 of all political podcasts in the country. And we're competing with and beating some real heavyweight media personalities from the left and right. So again, a big thank you for listening, and I hope that you continue to subscribe and share the word about the AJ Steele Show. Okay, we have a great show today. In today's show, I'm going to break down the science, the sociology, and the reasons for something that is so basic and so self-explanatory that all human beings have known it since the dawn of time. There are two genders, and two genders only, male and female. And honestly, I don't care to hear all the nonsense from the liberal merchants of hate and social disorder. Their stupid, emotional, and completely illogical arguments are nothing but posturing and political groupthink. It's not based in reason or in science. Am I the only one in this country who is sick of being force-fed the LGBTQ agenda on a regular basis? Am I the only one who is tired of the constant push to make mentally ill people appear to be normal? I promise to tell it like it is, and I don't care what people think. I'm going to tell it like it is, and I'm going to tell it the way I see it. But before we talk about genders, I would like to talk a little bit about our second segment. We're going to talk about raising kids. So where do we start? Where do we start this fascinating second topic? I'll begin with a true little story. I am so lucky to live in one of the most beautiful places on earth. My home is at the foot of a mountain in the San Francisco Bay Area. And the views around here and the wildlife are absolutely incredible. A short drive away from my home is the world-famous Highway 1. One of the most dramatic roads and ocean views that you will ever see. Along those beaches we get to see whales, elephant seals, dolphins, porpoises, sea lions, great white sharks, and all kinds of seabirds. But right here in the mountain above my home are deer, coyotes, bobcats, mountain lions, fox, mice. You get the point. I'm not really here to do a nature show. We'll leave that to Jane Goodall and PBS. But in a way, I am. What do I mean? A pair of very common birds made me think about the meaning of life and think about my family in a way that I haven't in a long time. A pair of beautiful finches decided to build a nest in one of the light fixtures just outside my window. I watched them labor to build a beautiful nest for about 3 weeks. Then I watched them taking time guarding and incubating the eggs that they laid. A while later, I saw new tiny chicks hatching, 5 of them to be exact. The parents were going back and forth, non-stop shifts to feed these hungry guys who grew up so fast. And they got so much louder every day. Every day they were just chirping non-stop when their proud mom and dad kept feeding them. Until one day these tiny little baby birds were as big as their parents. I watched all this out of my window with great amazement. This was real parenthood in full display. It was the mom and the dad bird doing the best they could for the common good of their family. And these finches, these tiny little birds, were just the best parents I could ever imagine. I was watching them in a combination of awe and just pure amazement and admiration. And then one day, and there's always the one day, did I mention I have cats and dogs? And I also have one real old goldfish. But anyway, I come home to find a beautiful, gentle, perfectly formed bird laying dead underneath the nest between the paws of one of my cats. My heart just sank. I rushed over to check if he was still alive, but no, I was too late. And above me on a bush, I saw the sad mother and father. The 2 finches were just helplessly looking at their dead child. I also saw the 4 other young birds on the fence, and they were strong and beautiful, and they were completely uninterested in their dead sibling. I wanted to yell and scream at the cat, but I realized that that's just the way of nature. The birds were being birds, and a cat does what a cat does. How could I fault a cat for being a cat? I don't know why, but this sad sight just broke my heart. It's just the finality of death, and it's the sadness of parents losing a kid. And I was also thinking, why did this bird have to die? Why did the other four survive? Is it just the luck of the draw? Was he just weaker than the rest? Or maybe he just landed in the wrong spot at the wrong time? It sure seems like life can be very random at times, doesn't it? And then I started thinking about my children, my family. How many human beings forget their instincts and don't take care of their children and family the right way? I kept thinking more and more, and I decided to do a show on how to raise a family, how to raise kids the right way. I hope you stick around to hear my time-proven, yet very controversial ideas on raising kids, good kids, in a happy family. I think that this show will be really illuminating for a lot of people. This is AJ Steele.
All I really want to be is the guy that gets the girl.
The AJ Steele Show. Think of your loudmouth best friend, hated by all the wives, because he tells it just like it is.
You finally see your love belongs to me.
Welcome back to the AJ Steele Show. I would like to talk a little bit about genders and the new push by liberals, the media, the courts, even medical doctors to include people who obviously suffer from severe mental illness as accepted and permanent members of our society. Let's start with the basics. There are only two genders. Two genders. Like it or not, genders are completely related to genetic codes we're given at birth. Females are born with double X chromosomes, which are amplified and expressed by female sex characteristics and organs, breasts, female reproductive parts, certain hormonal ratios like high estrogen and progesterone, which lead to physical and behavioral patterns. Now males, they're born with XY chromosomes. This XY combination is expressed with male organs, a male reproductive system, and several body characteristics that are enhanced by the high ratio of testosterone in normal males. Naturally, there are some individuals who have intersex conditions, which means that they have ambiguous genitalia. But as far as nature is concerned, these individuals do not fall under the normal pattern of development. They are naturally occurring anomalies, and they're mostly sterile as a result. There has never been a time in human, or for that matter in biological animal history, when there are more genders than male and female. That's all there is, a male and a female. Any kind of union that does not lead to offspring goes against the laws of nature, against Darwinism, and also against the laws of God if you so choose. The chief purpose of every living thing is to keep the species going by procreating. And until such a point where any relationship that isn't between a male and a female produces an offspring, the whole conversation is moot, and actually a form of a mental masturbation as far as I'm concerned. Today's liberal push to accept additional genders as an option is ridiculous from a biological and a social standpoint. Now, I have nothing against homosexuals or transsexuals or lesbians or queers or all the rest of the people who suffer from identity issues. I have nothing against them in the same way that I have nothing against people who have depression or bipolar disorders or schizophrenics. As a matter of fact, I don't really care what people do in the privacy of their own home. I don't care if they're gay. I don't care if they're straight. I don't care what they do in the privacy of their own home as long as they're consenting adults. But my problem begins with all these ridiculous movements. My problem starts when they push their agenda to children and young adults, and they try to make it seem like it's a normal alternative to a man and woman paradigm. I don't think we need to repress anybody or to hurt any gay people or transsexuals or etc., but I don't want to see them on TV nonstop telling me that this lifestyle is normal, and that if I don't accept it as normal, I'm a bigot. I don't want to see this constant push to normalize their mental illness, to make us feel like this is a normal behavior when it's clearly not. I'm so sick of this agenda to not only promote but to glorify mental illness. This agenda is taking over our schools, our media, even our so-called psychiatric world, which is proving to be more of a sham political movement run by people with a political agenda than any kind of a real science at this point. I mean, what kind of a bizarre world are we living in? Sometimes it feels like it's the insane running the asylum. It's the crazy people who are considered normal now. And the normal people have to run and hide, and they can't even express their opinion, or they'll be ostracized and their career and or lives destroyed. Who's running this show? No, I don't want openly gay teachers talking to my kids about the gay movement. My kids should be studying math and English and history, not alternatives of human sexuality. No, I don't want mentally ill drag queens doing reading sessions at the local library. And I absolutely do not need my kids subjected to a so-called religious community leader who moonlights as a musical cross-dresser. And I'm not kidding at all. My kids were sent to religious lessons with this mentally disturbed man or woman or whatever he wants to be called. His first question to the class, where the kids' ages ranged from 6 to 13, was, "What gender would you like me to refer to you as?" This, mind you, was in a Bible study class. Yep. Can you believe that? That's San Francisco. I immediately took my kids out of that class, but you know what? Most parents, most of these mindless liberals, they're just fine with this. They are so brainwashed that they don't even care or even want to protect their own kids anymore. You know, just today I saw the local news showing the police department here putting rainbow patches on their uniforms and rainbow stickers on their cars to show solidarity with the Gay Pride Month. By the way, what is this all about? What are they so proud of? I could go on, and I might just do that in an upcoming show. But the bottom line is this. There are only two genders and only two real sexes. Everything else is a construct of people who are either deluded, stupid, greedy, or just plain malicious. We're hearing this nonstop drivel that we should refer to men who think they are women as women, and we should treat women who feel that they're men as men. So my question to all of the pundits, all these freaky liberals, and all these so-called healthcare psychiatric world professionals is, if I follow their faulty logic, would that mean that someone who is suffering from schizophrenia, who feels that he is Napoleon, truly is Napoleon? Or how about a schizophrenic who thinks he's Barack Obama? Should we present him with a Nobel Prize for Peace? Or maybe we should just let him spend a night with Michelle Obama. I'm sure that would cure him real quick. Okay, I think it's time to end this segment. Wow, that was pretty heavy-duty stuff. And now that I got all that off my chest, I'm going to try to cool down a little bit. And when we come back, we'll talk about how to raise the greatest kids on earth. This is AJ Steele.
You're listening to the AJ Steele Show, where no topic is off limits, no discussion too harsh, no truth more true. The AJ Steele Show, we tell it like it is.
All I really want to be is a guy that gets a girl. All I really want to be.
Welcome back to the AJ Steele Show. We're talking about how to raise a good family and all the trials and tribulations that go along with that. And it all started because I had a family of Finches, a mom and dad Finch who had 5 babies, and I watched them build a nest and raise the kids, lose one of the kids, but eventually 4 of the 5 made it. And they're out there in nature flying, finding worms, enjoying life, I hope. You know, I have many great friends with beautiful families and great kids. And some of them are so-so parents. But in some cases, those so-so parents actually have amazing children. Unfortunately, I also know some very good people who may be religious or just great family people who end up with lousy kids. A lot of it is genetic, in my opinion. It's genetic for sure. Some people are just born rotten, and nothing can help them out. And I know parents don't want to hear that, but I think it's true. Some kids are just born rotten. But in many cases, I think that selfish or even well-meaning weak parents lead to troubled kids and troubled lives. Now, I don't claim to have the answer to every situation, and I definitely don't think that I have the perfect kids. We have occasional conflicts and issues just like any other family. But I've been lucky enough to have great kids who stayed away from drugs, they do well enough in school, they care about other human beings, and they seem to love and respect their mother and father. In that way, what else could I ask for? So what are my secrets to raising good kids and having a happy family? Let's start with this premise. I don't think parents have to be liked by their kids. Our number one responsibility in this world is to make sure that they grow up to be healthy, smart, sensitive, and well-adjusted. and also that they know right from wrong and are prepared to live in the real world. So, of course, I hope my kids love me and like me and appreciate me, but I don't sit around worrying about those things too much. Our job as parents is to do the right thing for our kids, no matter what. And that includes us putting up with them not liking us or being pissed off with us. I actually don't really care about any of that. My job and my wife's job are to make sure that they grow up strong and good. And that's what I intend to do, come hell or high water. Another basic premise I have for raising children is that they need a mother and a father who are hopefully married and living together. A strong family unit is of utmost importance in my mind, with a mother and a father bringing individual qualities that cannot be replicated by others. There is nothing like mom in this world, and there's nothing like dad. And that is the perfect unit to raise kids. A family with a mom, dad, and children. Now don't start me with these single mother families or these so-called gay alternative man and man families or woman and woman families. No. Kids need a father and they need a mother. All the other stuff is just an exercise in futility or selfishness, and in the long run cannot be good for the stability of these children. And now that we got through these basic points out of the way, let's go through my top 10 secrets to raising happy, healthy kids. Number 1, your family unit comes first, before the in-laws, friends, church, synagogue, any religion you may practice, any job you have, or even your own fun. When you and your wife have kids, they have become your number 1 and main responsibility. They didn't ask to be born. You had them, and they are mostly helpless until the age of 18. So things like hobbies, me time, personal vacations, drinking, partying, and even work or your career, all of those need to take a back seat to your children. Number 2, you are not your children's friend. You are their parents. And parents are another name for boss. A loving boss, perhaps, but still boss. Maybe a better name would be a benevolent dictator. As long as the kids are minors and live in your home, they have to follow your rules, like it or not. Kids are not equals to their parents in any way. And they have to understand that their position in the household is important, but doesn't hold any true power. You should always listen to your kids' opinions. But when all is said and done, the parents need to make decisions, even if these decisions are completely unpopular with their kids. And when my kids complain, you know what I say? I say, tough. When you pay the bills, when you have your own home, when you have your own kids, that's when you'll be making decisions. For now, you do what I say. Number 3, and extremely important in my opinion, is, if at all possible, have the mother stay at home with the kids while they're still young. I totally understand that some couples need to both work in order to keep paying for basics. But I also believe that there's many couples out there, and women specifically, who like to work and have a career, and they don't like to stay at home. Now, to women like that, I say, fine, just don't have kids. I don't see anything wrong with a woman being a career woman and putting her own success at the top of her important things in life. But I believe that children need their mother at home for at least the first 5 years of their existence. And I'm not a fan of constant babysitting. If you're going to take your baby to daycare, why did you even have a child in the first place? Now, for all the insane feminists and all these selfish women out there who are going to jump up and down, burn their bras, they're going to grow their armpit hair and their leg hair, and they're going to insist on calling me a sexist, chauvinist pig. They're going to be yelling at me that I don't respect women enough to let them have a career, that I belong in the 1950s when women were kept barefoot and pregnant, that I'm a part of the evil patriarchy, and that I belong in a re-education slave labor camp. You know what I say to them? I say, shut up and listen. It is precisely because I have the highest respect for women that I want them to stay at home raising their young kids. In my experience, no man is ever better suited than a normal, and I'm not talking about mentally ill women, a normal woman to be a mom. Children need their mothers more than their fathers. Fathers are super important, but mothers are essential. With a few exceptions, a man can never give his kids the same tenderness, the same love, the same care that a woman can. This is not something we can learn or we can even change. It is an instinctual connection between a child and his mother. Most women are born with an innate genetic predisposition to nurturing and loving. It's what we call the maternal instinct. And we see it in the animal world over and over again. The bond between a mother and her children is inseparable and cannot be replicated by a man. It is the reason why children cry out to their mommy when they get hurt. It is the reason why grown soldiers scream out for their mothers when they're scared or wounded on a hostile battlefield. And you know what? It is something I've seen time and time again. Right before men and women pass on to another world, right before they die, they never ask for their wife or dad. They never even ask for their own kids. They always ask for their mom. So to all the women out there, if you have kids and you don't absolutely have to work, stay with them. A little more money, a nicer car, or nicer clothes are not worth it. They're not worth the lost time with your babies. For me, motherhood is the highest and most noble purpose of a woman, and probably the highest purpose of any human being. Don't give up that calling, that honor for a little extra money. That special time between a mother and her baby is worth all the money and gold on earth. Believe me, that special time only happens once, and you can never reclaim it back. This show is just getting really good now, but I have to take a quick break. So please stick around, and we will be right back.
AJ Steele. Not right, not left, just right.
Welcome back to the AJ Steele Show. We're continuing our conversation on how to raise great children. We just finished talking about mothers and how important they are to the lives of their children. But number 4 is all about the dads. All you dads out there, don't despair. You are very important as well. Your job is to be strong, sometimes stoic, sometimes tender. In my opinion, a father should be a mentor on his son's road to manhood, and he should be his daughter's mentor, protector, and admirer. I know so many fathers out there who neglect their duty to their children, their duty towards their wife, who happens to be the mother of their children, and their overall responsibility to their family. I'm going to have a show in the future to discuss the reasons why so many men have become such irresponsible wimps. And a lot of it has to do with modern feminism. But irregardless of the media and the constant belittling of men, a father must remember that his contribution to his children's life is not to be taken lightly. In my experience, most adults who have a strong, reliable, loving dad do much better emotionally and mentally than the ones who never had a true fatherly influence in their lives. And since we talked about mom and dad, we need to talk about how they interact with their kids, and that's number 5. When I was a kid, my sisters and I always played our parents against each other. I think every kid remembers doing that. And we knew how to get our way, and from which parent. If mom said no, we'd go to dad because we knew dad was a softie, and we'd say, well, Dad, can we get the extra money for candy? Or when dad was mad at us for not doing something, we'd get away with it by going to mom and saying, well, Mom, we're really tired. Do we have to clean the yard? I believe that parents have to have a united front when dealing with their kids. It's almost like a battle. If the kids see any kind of weakness, they will exploit it. It's like a battle of the wits. And it's very, very important that the kids don't get a chance to badmouth one parent to the other or hear the parents badmouthing each other in front of the kids. Because those kind of disagreements, they don't work for the kids. Kids need to know that there is stability and one set of rules that both parents implement. And any kind of disagreements between the parents about how to deal with their kids should be dealt with later in private. I've seen so many parents who want to be liked or be the friends of their kids going against the wishes of the other parents. I've seen weak dads who just completely go against whatever the mom says, and I've seen weak moms who help the kids defy the orders of the dad, and that never works in the end. A united front is the key to success in a family and to success in raising your kids. I think it was the great President Abraham Lincoln who once said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." Now, I'm pretty sure that old Abe was talking about America and the Union, But I think that his words are very prophetic, and I think they work perfectly for a family. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Which leads us to number 6. Growing up as an immigrant in America, I had very little of material things. But my parents always taught me values. So you should also teach your kids the values of money, of hard work and success. But also teach them to be humble and to never be jealous or envious of other kids or other people's material things like clothes and toys and cars and fancy things. Teach your children to take pride in their grades and their talents and their goodness, not in things that can be bought and sold. I teach my kids that there's always someone that is richer or more successful than them. So competing on that level is basically futile. Their self-worth should never be tied to how much money they have, but to what kind of people they become. That is a very important lesson. Now, my number 7 lesson is to make sure your kids have chores and work around the house. I do believe in little surprises from time to time, and those can be gifts or trips or just telling the kids how much you love them. But I absolutely do not believe in paying them for work done or for good grades. They need to understand that the work they do is for the good of the family and by extension helps them as well. A good grade is not for me or for their mom. It's for themselves. If they do good in school or in life, they do good for themselves. Us parents may be very proud and very happy for our kids' success, but when all is said and done, their education, their success in sports, their talents, all that stuff will either benefit them or hurt them, and they should take pride in everything they do. And that's irregardless of their parents' scrutiny or praise. Number 8, do not enroll them in endless activities. I know so many kids who do baseball and drama and piano and ballet and this and that and this, and yet they're not good at anything. Children need to have time to do their homework, to play, and to be alone with their thoughts. They need to spend time outside doing physical activities. Don't be helicopter parents. Let kids be kids. Let them run outside. Let them build things on their own. And let them fall and fail. Too many kids today are so micromanaged by their parents that they don't know how to deal with the real world. That they don't know how to deal with the real world as adults. And as a result, they turn into these absolute snowflake failures in life. Good parents need to learn when to let go. As kids grow up and mature, they need to have more and more time away from their parents. This can be extremely painful to mom and dad, but it is a normal part of life. It prepares the kids to be successful adults. They should always know that you're there for them, but they also need a chance to spread their wings and to learn how to fly at some point. It's okay for them to start developing a life that does not always include their parents. And this should be happening at around the age of 13 or 14, in my opinion. Just let them live out their lives. But one thing you should make sure they don't do, they shouldn't have so much freedom that they can become destructive to themselves. It's always the responsibility of the parents to guide them. Parents should always know what's going on at all times. So I guess what I'm recommending is freedom, but freedom at the end of a very long leash. Number 9, constantly push the importance of education and check on their work frequently. Push them to read different books and to put down their phone, their tablet, or computer. As a matter of fact, I don't think young kids should have any type of internet service until their mid-teens. And even then, the exposure to this addictive, mind-numbing electronics should be strictly limited. Teach kids to be respectful, but also make sure they learn to question everything and to think things through. Do not raise little followers or drones. Raise kids with strong morals, strong values, and one religion. Kids should not have questions about their religion if the parents come from different ones. It's very important for the parents to work it out and pick one religion to raise the kids in. This doesn't mean that either parents should have to forget where they came from or their family values, but it does mean that children need one religion to follow. If they follow too many religions, they will not follow any. I have no ambiguity with my kids about drugs or drinking. They're absolutely wrong and they're not allowed, period. There's no ambiguity about right and wrong. There is never middle ground about the truth and about what is the right thing to do. Good parents should insist on those things and enforce these rules aggressively. And one more thing, parents need to model behaviors for their children. How can you teach them about refusing drugs if you do them yourself? How can you tell them not to drink alcohol when you drink alcohol every night? Remember, kids learn by doing, and they learn by watching. Be the best role model you can be for the sake of your kids. This segment has gone by so quickly, and now we're at number 10. Number 10 is the most important one of them all. Kids should always know that they are number one for their parents, and nothing in the world is more important than they are. It is our job as parents not to be selfish and not to put any aspect of our private lives ahead of our kids. Enjoy free time together. A family that does things together like sports, hiking, hobbies, vacations, and even little day trips is a happy family. You can never spend enough time with your children because once they're grown, that's it. They fly the nest. They fly the coop. I always hear parents say, I can't wait until the kids grow up and I have some free time for myself. I don't understand that at all. For my wife and I, the best times we've ever had were the times we spent together with our kids. And in conclusion, I'm going to go outside now and take a look at the empty nest of the birds I told you about in the beginning. And I want to wish all the best to the loyal mother and father birds and to their 4 surviving bird children. I'm going to remove that old nest from the lamp housing, somehow knowing that it was all done for a reason. And come next spring, hopefully another pair of birds will build a new nest there for their chicks, their children. It's the circle of life, and it is absolutely glorious. This is the AJ Steele Show. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast, which is available on all the major podcasting services, including iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, and YouTube. And don't forget to tell all your friends and family about the AJ Steele Show. Take care.